Good morning. Good morning. It's unusual to see all these men out here without all those women, but we know they're having a really good time. So I'm holding down the fort, so to speak. And from the reading from Damien, you can tell this is a special topic, this creative process. It's very special, and I think what you'll hear in it is a couple things you haven't heard before, so stay awake and you'll be fine. You know, this week after the rain, wasn't it so wonderful? I went walking around the wetlands in our community, and the intense blue sky, the birds chirping, the nice air, the fresh, clean air. And I was thinking of the title of this talk, God's Wealth. And I thought, this is it. It was just pouring down on me, the wealth of nature, God's wealth of nature. So when I got home, I thought, okay, I got to write this talk. I've got 3 sentences so far. The wealth of God was pouring all over me. So I think it begins with us. It's this amazing thing to me that God, I call it infinite intelligence, whatever you call this thing called God, could create human beings with such freedom. We have the freedom to solve problems. We have the freedom to love or not love. We have this inner piece of the creative process that I'll go into more. And we have a body that operates on autopilot. Sometimes we forget that, you know, we're breathing and our cells are doing things and our organs are doing things and it all operates on autopilot. And so we live really in a paradox. And that's an interesting word in that we see the pair of opposites. Dark, light, heat, cold, negativity, being positive, happiness, unhappiness, peace, war. And universal intelligence did this for a reason. After thousands and thousands of years, we still have to figure it out for ourselves. We have to figure this out for ourselves. What is it that we do that brings greater happiness into our life? And what is it that we do that brings greater unhappiness into our life? Now, if you've been in this philosophy for a while, you know about the law of cause and effect. Cause is our belief, our thoughts and beliefs, and the effects are what show up in our life that are like that. It can be a form, a person, a thing, or it can be just an experience. This week in class, I'm doing the practical mysticism, and it digs deep into subconscious mind. And I got such a kick out of Dean Paulette. He's the director of the plays he's been doing here. He's quite an amazing person. And we were going through this, and he came up to me and he said, you know what I've wanted in these plays? I wanted just enough profit to give a little bit to each person who was acting in the play. And guess what? That's what I got. He said, I got to up my ante, don't I? I said, you got to up your ante, that's for sure. And he has, and so we'll see how the next play goes. I'm sure it will match his enthusiasm. Well, through most of history, the term wealth has usually meant money. Or in the olden days, when farming was a big thing, it was how much livestock you owned or how much property you owned. But when it comes to God's wealth, I thought, we've got to be number one of God's wealth. We've got to be number one. Because we have so much power that is like the nature of God. But then I thought, okay, then if we're number one, what's number two? And all I have to do is look out at night to the millions of stars and go, the universe. That's got to be the number two essence of wealth for God. So we have this wonderful book. You may not be able to see much of it. It's called The Hand of God. Beautiful pictures from the Hubble telescope when it searches deep space. The photos are really stunning, and along with each photo is a quote. And I thought I would share this with you. And this is color enhanced because the rings of Saturn do not look that colorful, but it's there to show the variation in the density of Saturn's rings. And here's the quote that goes with this. It's from Wernher von Braun, if you know his name. As science explains more of the intriguing mysteries of the life of the universe, it expands into those areas that were previously unknown or accepted by faith. We are the observers of the universe. We are the experimenter. We are the searcher for truth. We are not a spectator alone. We are a participant in the process of creation. We are the highest product of creation. Now I'm going, oh, well, me or this? Number one, number two. But anyway, you get the idea. It's a pretty amazing thing that someone of that brilliant mind would come up with what so many spiritual leaders for thousands of years have come up with. Well, words like that bring me back to the 1920s when Dr. Holmes was doing all his research, when he was studying all the sacred texts. He studied world religions, and he synthesized what he learned. That's our text, The Science of Mind. And his basic conclusion was, we think with our conscious mind. Those beliefs are stored in subconscious mind, which is connected to universal mind. And through this medium called the creative process, it sets to work to produce the results of our beliefs, our thoughts. It could be manifest into, if you needed a new car, it could be a new car. If it is a relationship, it could be a person. If it's a feeling, it could be an experience. But the creative process is always at work. And our thoughts are the seeds. So recently I was invited into the probation department's day reporting center. I'm interested in helping those who are on probation who are trying to help themselves improve their lives. And I was so impressed when I went in there. Everywhere you look are positive affirmations. And in one of the classrooms is this big poster, seed, soil, plant. Your ideas are like seeds that go into subconscious mind that result in an experience in your life. And I told the operations manager, I said, you don't know how many years I've been studying that and still continue to study that. But it's not just our current thoughts and beliefs. Subconscious mind is a warehouse of everything that's ever happened to us, a warehouse of everything that we've believed. So it's got a preponderance of evidence of what we really think. And we keep adding to it. So in our classes, like Practical Mysticism, we're trying to find out, well, what's in there, what is stored in there that's bringing negative experiences to you? And let's carve a new road in that consciousness. That can be done. Dr. Holmes' words, whatever we think, whether good or bad, falls into this creative medium, is accepted by it, and acts upon it immediately unless it's neutralized. That's what spiritual mind treatment, our form of affirmative prayer, does. That's what practitioners and ministers are trained in. How to find those negative roads in your consciousness and override those, neutralize those. And that's what von Braun meant when he said, we are a participant in a continuing creation process. We are the highest product of God's creation. If I thought God was a person, I'd say, I sure hope he's happy about that. But I don't believe that's true. One person that made the biggest impression on Ernest Holmes is Judge Thomas Troward. He read his materials and he said it influenced it had the greatest influence on all Holmes' teachings. Well, Judge Troward was a judge and was appointed by the Majesty of England to go to the Punjab in India and be a divisional judge. And he did that for many, many years. And of course, if you're in India, you get in connection with spirituality, with metaphysics. And so when he retired, he went back to England and continued to study, and he started writing these wonderful books like the Edinburgh Lectures that you may have had a challenge in reading, but is very profound. And in this book called The Creative Process. I have it right here. The Creative Process in the Individual by Troward. He said, what I'm looking for is the personal factor. There's a creative power in every individual. He knows that. And he's looking for it. How does it work? Where does it come from? Where does it reside? And his conclusion is that creative power arranges our thoughts and beliefs and sets what he calls a train of causation in motion. Now, I was coming home from a memorial yesterday down 273 to get back to Cottonwood, and this train was coming up Route 273, and it had 5 engines and at least 100 cars behind it. It was one of the longest trains I've seen in a long time. And I was thinking about this train of consciousness. How many powerful beliefs do we have to pull a train of positive beliefs behind it? How many engines of negative belief does it take to pull a train of negative consciousness behind it? I thought it's a great visualization. I was sitting there at the crossing, ding, ding, and going, oh, a rail car of love, a rail car of hope, a rail car of joy, a rail car of disappointment, a rail car full of anxiety. Oh, there's one I hope I didn't cause, a rail car full of hate. That's how it works. That's how it works. Yet, he said, underlying this train of causation is some harmony. And this harmony, a God characteristic, takes all that we've said, all that we've done, all that we believe, positive and negative, and harmonizes it to the best of the ability of harmonizing all our many thoughts and beliefs. And that's the energy that attracts like energy. So last week, you may have condemned who knows who's on TV. This week, you may have praised somebody who's on TV. So there's some harmony there when you put the two together. But the preponderance of evidence is what these engines of causation are pulling. I love that visualization. Here's something else Troward believed. That the cosmos came into existence due to the self-contemplation of God. Now, that's in science of mind, but we know where it came from Troward. The self-contemplation of the infinite intelligence that created the whole world. And from this, he deducted that material form is what comes out of the creative process. It's a natural thing to come out of the creative process, material form. Because we live in a universe of polar opposites. Hot, cold, light, dark, in, out, up, down. Matter is the polar opposite of spirit. Now, I read that this morning. I've probably read that 100 times, but I forgot about it until I was pulling this together on how it works. Material form cannot remake material form. It's the power of our thoughts and beliefs that can make material form. So that's another good reason to think about the train as it's going by. There are infinite possibilities that could be manifest by our thoughts and beliefs. Let's hope we always try to end up on the positive side of all that. When I was thinking about this process, I was reminded of an experience I had years ago when I left Puget Sound to come to work at the power plant in Anderson. I had worked at the pulp and paper mills buying wood fiber so they could make paper. And you buy it from sawmills and all kinds of places, but highly competitive business. So when a company was going to build the Wheelabrator plant, it's a huge plant. they thought, we want to put the risk of this not working on somebody else. So they contacted the company that I ended up working for in Southern California, who owned the Bernie, Westwood, and Oroville wood-fired power plants, and they said, would you contract with us to supply all the wood for our plant? Because we want to be busy running the plant, not supplying the material for the plant. So the company said, well, let's take a look at that, and they hired a consultant who, for whatever reason, sent in a report that said, oh, no problem. You'll be able to get all that wood within a 50-mile radius of the new plant. Well, they decided to sign the contract, which had a huge penalty clause, millions if they didn't perform. But because of the consultant's report, they went, hey, this is going to be a piece of cake. We're going to make lots of money. Now we just need to find the person who's going to go out and find all this wood to bring in for this 50-megawatt power plant that used 100 semi-truckloads of wood a day, 7 days a week. So they went around the country looking for someone like that. And they got lots of resumes, including mine, because I was in the process of getting a divorce. And they called me and said, come down to LA and tell us how you're going to do this. I said, oh, great. So they flew me down. I thought, be there for an hour, go home. It was a 7-hour interview because I had to, in good consciousness, poke holes in that consultant's report. There was no way in the world, in a 50-mile radius, you were going to find 700 semis a week of wood that's just laying around, nobody's using it. Give me a break. So anyway, then they wanted to know more and more and more. So at the end of the 7 hours, they said, we want you, and you have 2 goals. Find the wood, because the plant's going to start up in 6 months, and then get us out of this damn contract as soon as possible. So anyway, make a story shorter, I hired a great staff and trained them, and we did both things. But I know now it was the creative process at work. We had 2 goals. When you have 10 goals, it's a little more challenging. We had 2 big goals. We knew we were going to achieve it, didn't know how, but we were going to. We were determined. Every day we talked about how it was going to happen. And it happened. And that's even before I found Science of Mind. So it was interesting. So I've proven the creative process to myself time and time and time again. And when I did come to this center and started reading the Science of Mind, I love Holmes' chapter. It's chapter 6, called Man's Relationship to the Spiritual Universe. It's a simple premise that whatever is true of the universe as a whole must also be true of humanity as some part of the whole. Same thing Troward said. It was probably Troward's words. But we live an enhanced life when we choose to express our life using the characteristics of God: peace, power, beauty, joy, light, love. When we enhance those characteristics in our life's enhanced. But it's even more greatly enhanced if we align ourselves with the principles, with the laws of how the universe works. One is freedom. That's a principle. Whenever we don't feel free, we're kidding ourselves because we have in every moment an opportunity to think differently, an opportunity to believe differently. Goodness. I don't care where you are or what you're doing, but goodness will overcome anything. A little love, a little smile. These are principles. The power of love. So many people need love. It's a powerful gift to give other people. Because Holmes clearly states that all suffering is the result of some infringement on those laws. So what does it mean today? I was thinking about you. Did you reach a point of frenzy with all the TV stories last week? Or did you say, Okay, Ernest Holmes, I'm going to try and love everybody. I'm going to trust that goodness will come out of this. I am going to trust the universe. I am going to respect everyone. Or do I hook onto my train hate, fear, and anxiety? Our choice. Which one is going to change the world a bit at a time? Hate, fear, and anxiety? Love and trust. We decide. That's freedom. Are we contributing to the negativity out there, the train going nowhere versus the train of goodness? Something to ask. On page 301 in the Science of Mind text, Holmes writes, if we allow the world's opinion to control our thinking, that will be our demonstration. It will be reflected in our life. Every day we should ask ourselves, are we helping society realize the power of love, the power of compassion, empathy, or are we contributing to judgment, hate, mistrust, and condemnation? What are we putting in those rail cars? A couple weeks ago, it's probably a month ago now, I told the story of Genevieve Barron. And her story is in the bookstore. There's 4 of these little books. They're about $5 each. Your Invisible Power. She, like Ernest Holmes, read Thomas Troward's work. And this is in 1910. And she was determined to study with him. She wanted more of what he knew. So she wrote him a letter that he didn't answer. Can I be your student? No answer. She thought, okay, I'm going to do this anyway. So she started using the power of creation. Every morning, well, she determined she needed $20,000 in order to take a steamer to England and live. So every morning she would visualize counting out 20 $1,000 bills. And before she went to bed, same thing. She visualized herself walking onto the steamer and just in a beautiful gown and walking on the steamship and arriving in England and getting a place to live. And she did. In 6 weeks, she had $20,000 from assorted sources. So she went to England and she, not emailed, obviously, but contacted Troward and said, I'm here, I'm ready to be your student. And he refused to answer. After 6 letters, he goes, come and meet with me and I'll tell you why I can't do this. So she came and met with him, and by the time they were done, he said, okay, I'll teach you for 6 months. And that was it. And this was also the time he was writing this book, The Creative Process. I can't imagine how exciting it must have been to sit with one of the world's most incredible thinkers on the process of the power of our mind. And so when she went home to New York, she started a school. I know I have the name of it here. Anyway, I already know so much of this talk. But anyway, a New Thought school on the power of mental science, and she ran it for 10 years. Then she went to LA and she started another school and ran that for many years. And after that, she traveled the country lecturing for 35 years. She believes so deeply in this. So she's a good example of God's wealth, the power that God, infinite intelligence, gave us to use. Whatever was presented to her, she raised her intelligence about it. Didn't hear from him? Must be okay, I'll just go. Didn't hear from him? Okay, write him another letter. Finally get an invitation? Okay, it's going to work. She was so confident. So I have to end because I could go on for hours. But in this beautiful book, The Hand of God, this is another beautiful picture. And it's a cluster of stars called Hodge 301. Oh, I hate the names they have for stars. They're nothing. Hodge 301. But it's in a nebula in space called the Tarantula Nebula because it's the most violent region in the universe. And it's interesting, John Updike, you probably recognize the name, wrote this to go with this. Physicists are getting down to the nitty-gritty. They've just about pared things down to the ultimate details. And the last thing they ever expected to happen is happening. God is showing through. They've been scraping away at physical reality all these centuries, and now the layer of the little bit left that we don't understand is so fine. I see God's face staring right back at me. That just makes me want to cry. So if you want to expand God's wealth in any area of your life, whether it's a relationship, a job, abundance, health, here's a little meditation from page 304 in The Science of Mind. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. And that life is my life right now. Opportunities in the area that I am focused on are unlimited. My life is supported by this divine urge to express, which permeates me and fills all space. As I focus on a successful outcome in this area, all of my affairs are in its hands, and it automatically knows the best way, method, and means for greater expression in my life. I trust this principle. I cooperate with it. Spirit flows through me, inspiring me, sustaining. I have the ability. I have the power, and I am busy using it. Life lies open to me. My thought, my key to life, opens doors for me. I am one with infinite divinity. Realizing this unity, I proceed on my way each day as one who knows that God goes with me into a day of infinite privilege. I open the portals of my soul and accept that which is ready to express through me. Today, I fling these portals open wide so that I know I am the instrument through which life flows. I give great thanks. And so it is. Thank you.